First in the programme tonight, one of the most unusual and controversial schools in the West, and important talks this week about its future. A school that's been called by some councillors a holiday camp for bad boys. Well, it's got its critics all right, and because of the high cost of running it, they argue that it should be closed down altogether. Well, there's no doubt it is expensive. Possibly £300 a week for each pupil is the cost. There are only a few dozen youngsters here. The limit is 78. The pupil-staff ratio is the envy of many state schools, sometimes as low as 4 to 1. But supporters argue it's a cost that's well worth bearing because of the important work that goes on here. Well, all the youngsters who come to this place have been in trouble of one sort or another. And so now, from the Portishead Nautical School overlooking the Bristol Channel, a report from Anne Lucas.
Even though most of these boys have no intention of going to sea, they still start the day with morning muster in the full naval tradition. And lads who've probably been to a selection of penal institutions and failed to settle down take a pride in their immaculate turnout. And they're prepared to take orders.
Front rank, one question forward, march!
The boys, who are aged between 14 and 17, have been put into local authority care by the courts. Their crimes are usually robbery, taking cars or absconding from institutions. A few are school truants. They're sent to Portishead from all over the country, and the average length of stay at the Nautical School is 12 months. The original Formidable was an old sailing man-of-war, and 110 years ago she was anchored off Portishead Pier with about 400 boys on board, most of them being trained for the Royal or Merchant Navy. But eventually the ship fell to pieces, and just over 70 years ago the present school was built. And although it's on dry land, it's still run very much on naval lines. All the boys do maths and English and can choose other subjects, some to CSE or GCE level. But the opportunities outside the classroom are as important, and they're expensive to provide. It costs about £300 a week to keep a boy here. At the moment there are 41 boys and a staff of 32, a ratio that's the envy of many other schools.
What would you say would be the largest number of books in the classroom? You know, you've been down here now for a month or so.
English or
English,
maths.
and what would you say would come second then? English and maths, perhaps?
About a quarter of the boys are training for a career at sea, some of them in Merchant Navy catering. They take their sessions in the school galley seriously and are even prepared to submit to Navy regulations and have tattoos removed from their hands, arms and faces. The Nautical School doesn't guarantee a place in the Merchant Navy, but they have an allocation of 18 places a year. They offer training in a whole range of crafts, including engineering, carpentry, painting and decorating. The lessons in seamanship have been important since the original Formidable dropped anchor 110 years ago. 4 boys from the school are working on the rigging of the SS Great Britain in the Bristol docks, where they're putting their splices and knots to the test, 70 feet above the deck. There's a strict selection procedure to find boys who will respond to the Nautical School's unusual approach, which to the outsider could seem like a soft option after the stricter regimes of other institutions. But, as the school principal explains, this is not the case.
We mustn't lose sight of the fact that although the boys whom you see here are in the main cheerful and happy and getting on with the job, they are here as a punishment insofar as their liberty is restricted. And this is something which occasionally people do lose sight of. It is an expensive business, but I think we must understand that one can't measure the value of a school like this purely in monetary terms. One's got to consider that the majority of the boys here are unable to accept formal education in the normal way. They're unable to accept what society looks for in them, and they are unable to mix in society, to relate with other people in society. And obviously one needs a very high ratio in order, staff to boys, in order to give them the opportunities to understand that authority and adults are not things to be feared or things to be necessarily despised or chucked out of the window. The people are there to help and to take an interest in them.
Sports and adventure training are important. After learning in the school swimming pool, this group have tackled whitewater canoeing on expeditions around Wales and the southwest. Outdoor adventure is just one way the school tries to achieve its aims.
One, to help young people to grow up, which a lot of them need a great deal of help to do. I think this is important. I think also, alongside this, to give them an experience of life which is new to them, which we hope is worthwhile and challenging and interesting. And also, equally as important, is education, which most of these boys are sadly behindhand in for a number of reasons. Well, I think what we aim to establish here is a comfortable living situation, a situation in which boys can feel relaxed and they can feel able to explore and able to learn from their mistakes and able to form useful relationships, not only with staff, but amongst themselves. And we try and build everything on that, whether it's outdoor activities, whether it's the routine of the school or the education side, or anything else that you like to mention. And I should mention also, one of our aims is to help in breaching the gaps in family life which exist with so many of these boys.
For some of the boys, coming to the school is their first experience of 3 meals a day, and most are introduced to many activities they've never tried before, perhaps skills they would have scoffed at before. They're taught according to their individual needs and abilities in a relaxed atmosphere. There's no corporal punishment and minimal security. The usual punishment for misbehaviour is the cancellation of free time at the weekends. They're free to mix with the youngsters of Portishead, and local clubs and organisations are invited to use some of the school's facilities.